Thanks for coming out and watching the oxymoronic Reddit Professional Show, where I showcase the best and worst of the internet. Here I comment on brilliant and hilarious comment chains regarding dumb shit on the internet for you to enjoy. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell button so that you get notifications every time we come up with a new video. Enjoy this week's show.
Till a man created a fake restaurant on TripAdvisor and asked around for good reviews. Eventually, the fake restaurant was the #1 restaurant in London, and was being called up hundreds of times daily for bookings. For a day, the man set up a cafe in his backyard and served frozen food to rave reviews. No, what is incredible is how people are able to lie to themselves without realizing it. It's just like the fable of the emperor's new clothes. If you tell people only the most elite can do something, and they'll say that they did it to seem better than what they are, bragging about it, to keep the illusion that they are better than commoners, only to get swindled by those who said it was for the elite only and making them look like a fool. I worked at a liquor store for 2 years. People are dishearteningly unoriginal in their opinion forming. I'm not trying to sound smart here, I'm struggling to put it into words. Branding is extremely powerful, as is suggesting to the consumer that they are in some way superior or sophisticated for using your product. Wine and liquor snobs, in my opinion, are the absolute trademark worst offenders in the alcohol world. For wine, it appeared as if price tag was the basis for assessing quality more often than not, rather than challenging one's own opinions with comparisons across different price points within the varietals they enjoyed. I heard of some people pranking their friends by swapping wines from different bottles, and the unsuspecting participants gravitated to the expensive wines, naturally. For liquor, not much difference. Lots of people only drink Patron or Syrah, Grey Goose, ECT, without trying anything else. I heavily suggest setting up blind taste tests with friends to broaden horizons when it comes to alcohol. You might find some $20 bottles you prefer to that $80 one. Or not. I don't think it's that people are lying to themselves, mate. They are being lied to, and they don't have a concept of what the real deal should look like. When I was growing up, we didn't go out to fancy restaurants and stuff. Just not the sort of thing an immigrant family does, at least not mine. As I got older, with friends and then with girlfriends and now with my wife, I have gone to some amazing restaurants. From Michelin 3-star spots here in NYC to all sorts of really good hole-in-the-wall/authentic restaurants all over the world. I'm by no means overly pretentious now, and I don't claim to be a foodie or anything of the sort. However, I can get a reasonably good sense of whether a place is legit/whether it's bogus. It's not hard to figure out, partly because we eat well at home and I like to cook also. I know what fresh ingredients taste like, I know what homemade sauces taste like vs packaged sauces. I can tell if the chef is being creative or it's just some wacko mixing up a bunch of nonsense. If you took me to the same places when I was younger though, I would have been totally hoodwinked. I just didn't know WTF a fancy restaurant should entail. If reviews said it's good and it looked trendy, I'd buy it because, well, why should I not trust it? I literally didn't know better. My point is, this experiment is less about individuals lying to themselves and being morons, and more about how easy it is for someone to generate fake excitement. Someone who is in London for a short time, visiting from a different country, who checks TripAdvisor for restaurants, a website geared towards tourists exclusively, not exactly the right place to find info about restaurants is it, may get fooled by a guy like this one who knows exactly what he's doing, and does it well. He's a clever prankster, not that all these people are morons. This guy has done a few similar things, including wearing counterfeit jeans from a Camden Market stool and getting them endorsed at Paris Fashion Week and sending lookalikes onto TV and public appearances because he didn't want to go. He tried to test the limit of how far he could twist the appearance of the other people and at one point even got away with sending a woman. I have thought about doing this in rich areas all around the United States. The first few weeks the store is open, I will pay my employees to stand in line outside of the restaurant. I will tell people that every reservation is booked. Once the hype has reached maximum, I will start bringing in customers and serve them SpaghettiOs. A restaurant in a neighborhood nearby did something similar to this. They paid off some local bloggers and they hyped it up. My wife and I went one Thursday night without a reservation and was laughed at when we asked for the wait time. It's rare you need a reservation for the other nice restaurants in the neighborhood, and they did have empty tables. So we never went back. After they started failing, the owners started talking down the neighborhood and the bloggers they paid off did so too. They were saying that the high-class restaurant wasn't a fit for the neighborhood. Truth is, there were other high-class restaurants in the area and they just couldn't compete with them. They eventually closed, and even after that they were still bashing the neighborhood by blaming it for their failings. I do realize people lost jobs, but it did feel good to see that place shut down. I'm in Chicago and I feel like this is standard operating procedure for new restaurants weeks or months after opening. Online reservations are fairly standard, but none will be available. If you call, it's 50-50 as to whether they can squeeze you in. You get there and it's dead. It's London's top-rated restaurant. A restaurant that doesn't exist is currently the highest ranked in one of the world's biggest cities, on perhaps the internet's most trusted reviews site. On TripAdvisor's website, the company says it dedicates significant time and resources to ensuring that the content on TripAdvisor reflects the real experiences of real travelers. So I get in touch when the whole process is finished to ask how it is that I've managed to sidestep the rigorous checks. Generally, the only people who create fake restaurant listings are journalists in misguided attempts to test us, replies a representative via email. As there is no incentive for anyone in the real world to create a fake restaurant, it is not a problem we experience with our regular community, therefore this test is not a real-world example. All that matters is perception. I had a TripAdvisor review for a hotel removed because I never stayed there. Apparently taking pictures of the room when I go in didn't mean anything. My friend and I went to Santa Cruz for a concert and got a hotel room because we didn't want to keep driving after, on a trip to visit his brother in Slough. One of the beds was terrible. Burn marks all over and it smelled funny. The bathroom door didn't open easily because the knob wasn't even screwed into the door, it was missing one screw and the other was halfway out. The window in the bedroom didn't shut all the way either. It just sucked. My buddy and I ended up sharing a bed because there was a party or something across the street. And because that other bed smelled funny. Kind of like a mixture of urine and pesticides. Didn't Penn and Teller do something like this? I vaguely remember a show where they had a pop-up created a ton of buzz and served microwaved food and a dessert that was basically a scoop of Cool Whip, but the waiter sold it something like a triple white mouse mousse that was whipped 1,000 times by hand by Virgin, or some BS. Penn and Teller's bullshit episode was called The Best. On their show Bullshit, they had an episode where they were selling different versions of designer water at some restaurant, with the customers complimenting it excessively, only to find out that, in reality, it was all coming out of a hose in the back of the restaurant. My favorite was the organic episode where they took a banana, cut it in half, and labeled one half as regular and the other organic. People said the organic banana tasted better and one person even spat out the regular banana saying it tasted rotten. One lady fell for it, then they explained what they did, then she came back and said the exact same thing an hour later, and then they showed her what they did again. My aunt swears message makes her lethargic, hallucinate, and makes her unable to breathe, which is fascinating to me because it's in the meat rub I make and she loves it. The reasons why people fear-monger about message are complicated and fascinating. And racist LOL. It's pretty funny actually. I was curious how pretentious and absorbed people could be. One time I got a request for a wine list, and the woman asked for a taster of all our merlots. I didn't know much about wine, but out of curiosity I brought her a tray full of tasters of all the exact same wine. I really sold it. I gave her names of every one, told her where they were from, and by most expensive to least. Every single one she had a completely different reaction. Even her husband. They had no idea they were all the same but pointed out differences in all of them. It took them a minute, but they picked their favorite and I brought them 2 glasses. I tried this a few more times with different people and always got the same result. Not once did a single person make the statement that they were the same wine. It blew my mind. I am a manager in a high-end hotel. I've worked in many other hotels, and more than once have I dealt with concierge, bellmen etc. who would create fake TripAdvisor accounts and then review the shit out of themselves. The stay was horrible but Brian was wonderful. If it weren't for Brian we wouldn't even consider coming back. But because of Brian's exemplary service, we're coming back. We were going to leave and never come back, and then Brian really turned it around with his friendliness. The hotel was terrible. The rooms were terrible. The food was terrible. You know who wasn't terrible? Brian. Brian is the best person who has ever graced this earth. I hope they give Brian a raise. They'll post multiple reviews like this and then next thing you know, it's Big Brian Fest. And you notice they are all new accounts posting these reviews with no photo or identifying information. People do this all the damn time. It manages people's expectations, like they know Brian is the best bellman in the history of bellmen. Then people read the reviews and they're like, oh, Brian, I've heard great things about you. And the guest would already think Brian is the best person ever, and they would tip the shit out of them. Brian's would get $500 tips in a day, sometimes more during busy season, due to this strategy. I've even had to discipline Brian's like this because not only do they take away from the other deserving employees, but they also tend to be really reckless. For example, Brian is supposed to drive a shuttle to and from the airport, but now Brian is driving people from West Palm to Miami for a drug deal on the DL. Brian sounds like a smart man. Tips should go to him. If you watch the documentary on it, the guy explains that he does this for a living. He buffs up web reviews with positive review content for pay. As a stunt, he created the fake restaurant just to see what could happen as a personal project. They had an actual night where they served people and made them wear blindfolds while he led them to his backyard and fed them microwave meals. It still received positive reviews.
If you enjoyed this week's effective way to waste time, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. If you are enjoying the series, leave me a comment below. A special shout out to the content creators. You frickin' rock.